Morning. So here we are, back on the London Loop at the beginning of section 7, and today we hope to do section 7 and 8 to get us to Kingston Bridge, back to the Thames, and then that will be the southern bit of this loop done. The rest of it's north of the Thames, and we'll do that in a bit. So hopefully it's going to be a nice day. Let's get going. So today's walk promises to be a bit more urban and flatter than the last couple of days. The map suggests we walk through quite a lot of built up areas, and then we take a river all the way to the Thames at Kingston. With all the rain we've had, that may be a bit muddy, but it's unlikely to be hilly. Just coming onto Sandy Lane in the Belmont district of Sutton Borough, and the book says to go down here, looking for a pair of white gates. Countryside's lovely, but I am a fan of these leafy suburbs. I really like walking through them. And there's some fantastic houses along here. Of Epsom and Ewell, home of the Derby, and last section we were walking through Oak Park, it's family home of the Derby family. So the 12th Earl of Derby and Sir Charles Bunbury were deciding to found a horse race, and they tossed a coin as to what it was going to be called. So it could have been called the Bunbury, which wouldn't have sounded quite as good really as the Derby, would it? Anyway, we cross the road here and carry on down to a roundabout where we're going to walk up into Nonsuch Park. Here we go, up Nonsuch Walk. Just under the railway line, which you can just hear a train on, we walk into Warren Farm. It's a little pocket of countryside between those housing estates. Much beloved by dog walkers by the look of it. We just passed into Nonsuch Park, site of a palace built by Henry VIII, but largely used by Elizabeth I. Henry VIII died not long after it was completed. Now just a lovely park. There's a mansion here, but it's not the original building. He used it as a hunting ground. Well, that's what he wanted to use it for. Guess he didn't get to do much hunting by the time it was built. According to the guidebook, the loop very kindly takes us to have a look at what remains of the banqueting hall of Nonsuch Palace. Well, let's see. And apparently this is it, the banqueting hall of Nonsuch Palace, now gone back to nature. Oh, the impermanence of material things. So this is where Henry VIII hoped to have his banquets, but in fact I guess Elizabeth I had them instead. At least they had a good view. And it's so often the case on the loop, so far at least, we transition from the rural to the urban in a flash. So now across that road safely. These London roads make the A46 look like a country lane. We're now back on a semi-urban footpath called Vicarage Lane. Here we are, just coming down Church Street in Old Ewell. Apparently goes back to Roman times, Ewell, because there's a spring here. So now we're going to pass through this white gate into Bourne Hall, and it's called Dog Gate. I think you'll find out why in just a minute. So this will be the end of section 7 with the link to Ewell West Station. We're going to carry on down here to do section 8 to Kingston Bridge. According to the signpost, another 7 miles. And now we go in search of the Hogsmill River, which is going to take us to Kingston, ultimately.
Now waterless under a stone arch. Well, that could be it then, will it?
And here is the Hogsmill, just starting out on its journey from the lake at Bourne Hall Park to its confluence with the Thames at Kingston. Largely we're going to be following this river off and on for the rest of this walk. Nice little spot for a break. Just going past these giant holding tanks. The idea of these is that if the river floods, they divert water into these and prevent the valley from flooding. It's a good idea. Diverted into Ewell Court Park, mainly because they say there's some toilets here. There we are. Once was a place where they made gunpowder. One of the factories apparently exploded. They felt it in London, thought it was an earthquake. But they got a nice house out of it. Well, a very pretty little park, even if there were no toilets or cafe. Still worth the diversion though. It's lovely. Back on the loop now, on our way to Kingston once again. So this lovely stretch of countryside is just a little strip. Every so often you see houses either side. If you look at the map you can see that we're just going through a strip of green with urban development either side of it. But you wouldn't know for most of the time. Okay, and now we have to leave the river for a while after that very pleasant walk down that strip of countryside and walk back into suburbia past the Toby Carvery. Well, it's hard to resist a pint of London Pride and some pigs in blanket sharers, and fortified, off we go for this little suburban bit of the rest of the walk to Kingston Bridge. Left onto Grafton Road. So we're now in Old Malden, and I think we just passed into the borough of Kingston, and apparently this church is a hodgepodge of medieval, which is the flint work, 17th century, which is the tower, and Victorian, which is the obvious newer bit we're going past now. Malden apparently stands for Maildon, cross on the hill, so I guess that's where it got its name from, the old Saxon. Now dropping back down to the Hogsmill for the final stretch into Kingston. We're back in the real world. Just coming into the outskirts of Kingston now and leaving the river for a bit, for perhaps the most scenic part of this walk, which we'll come to in a bit. So the loop now takes you down this path with a sewage works to my right and a cemetery to my left. So after that long and busy road, we're back on one of these little urban footpaths along the banks of the Hogsmill. Hogsmill's grown to quite a big river now. All those tributaries we've been walking past since its origin. Here we are coming into central Kingston. Just got to find our way to the river now. Still following the Hogsmill now. Almost at the point where it reaches the Thames and the end of section 8. We're just going to do a tiny bit of section 9 to take us over Kingston Bridge to find the station home on the other side of the bridge, and then that's the day done. What a glorious day. And here we are. This is where the Hogsmill joins the Thames. Not often you walk the entire length of the river in a day, but there we go. And this is the end of section 8. We're going to do a little bit of section 9 to get to the station. So just walking over Kingston Bridge, leaving behind the southern section of the loop, and the rest of it's going to be north of the Thames. And that's the way we'll be going next time, to carry on the loop to Hatton. So that's the end of today's walk. Just walking down to the station now. Wasn't that a great walk? Loved going along that river. Now in the hustle and bustle of Kingston, but we'll see you again in Kingston to start the next section to Hatton. See you then. Bye for now.